Well, hello everyone, my name is Zachary O'Shea, and this is Box of Teeth. I have another horror-themed monster for all of you for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition right now. Here in September, we're dealing with a horror-themed antagonist and his minions you can use for a Dungeons & Dragons game, and that is Phantasmagoria. Phantasmagoria is a thunder elemental, but he's also an operatic villain who dresses himself in finery and a porcelain mask and has a very larger-than-life feel to him. He's basically the Phantom of the Opera. He and his minions love to sow chaos and want to create great art through human suffering. These elementals cover a couple of different horror subgenres, the first being cosmic horror because they are not really living entities, they're just sound that has its own emotion, and that emotion is very full of malice and treats real living things like instruments to be played or notes to be squashed, as it were. We also have gothic horror because Phantasmagoria is larger than life, he's romantic in his sensibilities, he patrons the arts and the like, and class horror because he has a lot of contacts with the upper crust of society and brings that to bear against his opponents. We're going to cover one of his minions today, the Morendo, which is Italian in music for dying away. Wrapped in an opera cloak with a wide-brimmed hat, the Morendo appears to be a humanoid shadow with sparkling eyes in its depths. Its fingers are twice again too long and end in knife-like points. Whenever it moves, it makes this soft, mournful sigh, and that's the only sound that it can really produce. This is because it is sculpted from a humanoid's dying last gasp, and it really seeks to relive that final pivotal moment for its art, but it can't because it's just sound now and an elemental. It's not really alive. Phantasmagoria exploits this fact by sending it against its opponents and other targets. The Morendo is more than happy to slash a throat, suck out that last breath, and then silently exit the stage. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Morendo statistics for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. I apologize about the wind chimes in the background, but it's kind of fitting. It's just a very windy day. The Morendo is a challenge rating 1 medium elemental, that is neutral evil. It's got a low armor class and okay number of hit points. The stealth skill is resistant to non-silver, non-magical weapons and immune to thunder damage, and it has condition immunities you would expect for an elemental to have. Ability-wise, it has incorporeal movement, so just the standard ability, kind of like a ghost, and it does have sneak attack that it can do once per turn. However, it is vulnerable to silence, so if it's in a silence spell, it has to make a constitution save. If it fails, it has disadvantage on all of its actions, and it cannot move. Action-wise, it gets one attack of Sonic Stab that does piercing damage and thunder damage. And for reaction, it has Fade Away, so whenever it reduces a creature to 0 hit points, it may use its reaction to dash. Morendo is the least powerful and least complex of the variety of elementals in Phantasmagoria's troupe that he can throw at heroes or non-player characters. You could use them in a swarm, you could have one perhaps in a dark room or a warehouse to fight off your players. In a low-level game, it could be a Italian horror movie style killer that goes about that the players have to track down and deal with that introduces them to Phantasmagoria. I'd love to hear how you'd use it in your own game down in the comments below. You can, of course, find Phantasmagoria, all of his minions, and hundreds more horror-themed monsters, all for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. They're all perfectly free at boxofteeth.blogspot.com. If you're more interested in the non-Dungeons & Dragons projects that I have, or the horror fiction that I write that includes Grease Paint, which is right there, or Psychopomps, Book 2. You can read them separately, you don't have to read them in order, which came out just a couple of weeks ago. You can always go to www.zacharyoshea.com. As always, thank you for your time and your attention, and have a wonderful rest of the day.